Want a handful of easy tricks that will help prep your character for session 1, but also make roleplay and combat a breeze? Want a fistful of easy tricks that will make your character creation both structured and enjoyable? Well, you've come to the right place. Hi everyone, I'm Willowwares, and this is the Quickened Guide, where I quickly show you how to improve at the table. I've divided up the video into 5 minutes of work, 20 minutes of work, and for all you character creation freaks out there, an hour of work. There's tips from little ol' me, but also some character experts from the D&D space and beyond as well. A few of these tips are for beginners, and a few of them I bet you haven't heard before, but all of them should be helpful. This video assumes that you have a character sheet filled out, but if you don't, no worries. There's still plenty you can snag from this video. 3 pyramid points. This is the first tip that is also one of my all-time favorites, a roleplay failsafe that's helped me quite a few times at the table, especially when I'm doing a one-shot. Anyone remember the pyramid game show? The premise of the game is that you're trying to get a teammate to guess a word or phrase, but you can't say that word. For example, your phrase is Space Marine, so you can say big pauldrons and like clay I shall mold them, and in the furnace of war I shall forge them. They shall be of iron will and steely sinew. In great armor I shall clad them, and with the mightiest weapons shall... But you can't say Space Marine. Now, I want you to do that for your character. So let's say you've decided your fighter John Wick is vengeful. You've written that right into his character sheet. But how can you describe that in a single point without standing up at the tavern when you all first meet and blurting out, I'm vengeful? Even though, admittedly, that would be really funny and maybe you should actually try that one time. Instead, note down that you were on a violent spree after someone hurt your dog, or maybe carry around a specific knife meant for a man who hurt your family. This, to me, is what bonds and flaws and ideals are, but boiled down to a useful phrase or story that can be pulled out of the table anytime. It also helps cement how you act out those traits. Now, all of that is nice basic character building, but pyramid points can be used to give a character incredible depth, which I'll go over later in this video, but we gotta keep moving. Next up, and this one is so easy, you do not have an excuse not to do it. Just one hit. Hit me once, hit me as hard as you can. This is a tip that I give to my brand new players at the table. Before session, just by yourself, run your character through one single basic attack, bonus action, and movement. If you're a caster, roll a full spell. This might sound a bit silly, but going through and figuring out what your basic attack pattern is makes that first combat way more manageable. I want you to actually roll it all out and add up the numbers here. You might find this shocking, but you'd be surprised at how many people look down at their basic attacks the first time and go, and while there's nothing to be well, there's nothing to be done about that. You're just really bad at D&D. If you do that, if you say just one time, the D&D police actually, they come down through the ceiling, they crawl in through the rafters, they take your dog, and they take the one person you love the most, and they hide them, and you can't find them ever again, and you can't play D&D anymore. And while there's nothing wrong with that, this 2-minute exercise, that you only have to do once by the way, will help offset the learning curve quite a bit. And I promise, if it's your first time playing, you'll still mess up from time to time during the game. Or if you play for years and years, you'll still mess up from time to time during the game. That's the lesson, kids. You never grow and you never change. But knowing where everything is super helpful. And roll for damage when you do it too. No cheating. I will know. Next up is a tip outside of the tabletop world. Robin Williams was a fantastic actor and comedian, but also dropped an amazing nugget here that has only done good things for me and my players.
You know, you have great power listening. And I went, really? He went, yes. That's the second part of the equation. When you listen to someone, it's quite fascinating, and stillness is very powerful.
This isn't so much as something you can prep for as a choice that you must consciously make before the session begins. Even if your character is fast-talking over the top, the act of listening and reacting to others is what will elevate you into a great player. A joke made in a vacuum is fine, but a quip made that's the result of actively listening to what others are saying around you is king. In short, listen to what you can play off the party, not be a one-person stand-up. Most of the problem players I run into do not listen. Take your mind out of trying to get a funny quip in the first 5 seconds of the game and into digesting the feast your fellow players will set up for you. This rule applies to humor, conflict, anything. So that's if you have 5 minutes, but what if you've been a really good player at the table and have waited not till the 11th hour before the game, but maybe you can work on your character over your lunch break at work on the same day? Well, here are my tips for you. But before we get down to business, I'd like to take to the skies in my airship. Come, Present Willow. Wait, what do you... Thank you so much to Kibble's Compendium of Airships and Artifacts for sponsoring this video. This book is packed with 2 brand new classes, the Powerful Paragon for your Martial class fans out there, and the Summoner, which lets you craft the perfect pet companion or summon small armies to do your bidding. On top of feats and spells and a beefy section about building cool artifacts that level up when your characters do, you get 30. Yes, you heard that right. 30 subclasses like Inventor, Scion, Occultist, Spellblade, and Warlord. You pretty much get the entire cinematic universe for this. It's kind of crazy. But the part I'm most excited about as a massive Treasure Planet fan is the airship section of this book. There's airship combat, customization, pretty much anything you need to take to the skies. There's a lot more here, 250 pages more to be exact, so check out their Kickstarter page for more. And thanks again to Kibble's Compendium of Airships and Artifacts for sponsoring. It means a lot. Now, back to our regularly scheduled program. Back to you, present me. Ooh! Why, thank you, me. The trope flip. Write out your character as you normally would, what they're like, etc. Then, I want you to scan your character for a trope. Are they a classic hero, a dashing rogue, a devoted cleric? Great! Now here's the fun part. Subverting expectations. And not in like the final season of Game of Thrones way. Break down what the trope usually stands for, take one of those aspects, and see if there's a way that you can flip it to be opposite. Let's take Kinger from Amazing Digital Circus. He's a character that's presented as the goofy, that's so random crazy guy that in a lot of other shows would just be used as a vehicle for humor. As the show goes on, however, the flip here is that he's actually a considerate and intelligent guy, a deep thinker that's a prisoner in his own mind. So comment with your character's trope flip below, because I know that your brain is already rattling around thinking about how to do it. But Willowwares, you cry. I don't have a trope, or maybe I'm bad at spotting them. What do I do? Oh, my dear viewer, you do. You had one all along, inside your heart. I mean your class, and subclass. Your class is always a trope, even if you don't play into it. There's going to be expectations around each of these classes, and you can use those expectations as levers that you can push or pull to create something cool and new. So no excuses. Combat intent. I want you to write down in one sentence what the tactical play style of your character is. Not what their fighting style is from a flavor standpoint, but the bare bones mechanics. So this is different than your basic attack structure that I talked about earlier. This is a level deeper, which is why it's in the 20 minutes section. Every class you pick and the subclass you pick are going to have basic mechanical goals that the designers had in mind while creating them. This means that there's a type of combat intent, the way that you are supposed to play. I know this phrase might ruffle a few feathers, but you'll find that playing into the mechanical goals of your class makes things a lot easier, especially if you're new. Take Hex, for example. If you read it as is, it's a spell that gives a little extra damage and a debuff. If you slot it into the Warlock build, however, it's a bread and butter spell that's the classic favorite to pair with Eldritch Blast. But why? That's why looking up the overall combat intent for a Warlock, which I would say is a highly customizable, hard-hitting caster that burns through resources quickly, makes you understand, here's a spell that I can use that gets the most bang for my buck with my low amount of spell slots, that stacks with my cantrip, which doesn't use a spell slot at all. This may sound like involved research, but trust me, D&D has a wealth of forums and online documentation that's a simple search away. That's why this is in the 20-minute section and not the 5. I'm giving you a little more time to figure this one out. I am a generous queen, after all. Understanding the why and not just looking up a list of spells to always go for is what will elevate your character. Okay, we're in the big boy league session now. I'm gonna slow down a bit and dive into these with a bit more meaning. I would also recommend this part for characters that are part of longer campaigns. And you really get the most out of these last 3 points if you take your time with them and allow them to grow or change as the campaign moves forward. Pyramid points, specialists. So here is where that beginner point I was talking about earlier becomes someone who is more in tune with their character. I want you to take the pyramid points, but instead of applying it to your basic traits, I want you to play the pyramid game with what your character is good at. Let's have you play an artificer in a Spelljammer campaign this time, because you're advanced and you like to play lesser plagued classes now. Your character is a mechanic in the belly of your party's ship. Now your character takes but a moment to familiarize herself with the controls, but you as a player might not be a deep space starship mechanic. Of course, Willowware's audience members do have the highest concentration of NASA Starship lawyer mechanic scientists, but for the few that aren't, there's probably like 2 of you, here is a great moment to have a pyramid point. Research your specialty and write down a few phrases or concepts that you don't have to store in your brain. Or learn something new, that's cool too. There's a huge difference between saying, "Captain, the engine is broken," versus,
"See, the turbinator hooked up to the motor. The motor ain't pushing enough pressure out for the gas pedal. The gas pedal got a lot of dirt."
Every person at the table is a specialist in something, even if they're not a smart character. So what is that thing for your character? Learn something new and improve yourself. Worst case scenario. This one is a great plan to have for those high-risk campaigns, but also those early dungeon dives that manage to kill so many. What is your SCP breached containment plan? When the party is down and you're the only one left, what are your priorities? This might sound like over-prepping, but it's actually prepping you for two benefits. One, your worst-case scenario, after those baby levels and before Let's Kill an Archfiend levels, gain another scenario. This is called the, it's getting kind of bad scenario. And it's usually here where the party must make choices about playing defensively. How do you benefit your party the most in situations like this? Finally, if we want some soft roleplay benefit, framing your character in this light gives you a new window into their potential behavior. Gale from Baldur's Gate is an excellent example of a character who has this as a huge pillar of his personality. His worst case defines a lot of his choices. It doesn't have to be that big for you, but it's a fun exercise to stretch your brain. And finally, I hope I've saved the very best for last. It gets a little abstract here, but I think reworking your character after reflecting on this question is a worthwhile endeavor. The spirit of the game versus the spirit of the campaign. The concept of the spirit of the game is something I snagged from Gary Gygax's book, Role-Playing Mastery, which I recommend checking out. So what is the spirit of the game, you ask? Well, according to Mr. Gygax, this couldn't be defined exactly, at least in one simple sentence, but it's still pretty important. It involves an understanding of the rules of whatever system you're playing, but also, quote, understanding to what lies between the lines as well, unquote. It's what happens after you've played a system a number of times and get that abstract feeling of what a game's goals are beyond winning and losing. You know how playing Dark Souls has a different vibe than, say, Pokemon? Not just visually or rules-wise or mechanics-wise, they make you feel different. They have a different goal. Dark Souls has a spirit of getting beaten down and slowly climbing up through learning by failure, while Pokemon pushes forward the spirit of the ultimate tournament. The development of your Pokemon is a reflection of your progress through the game towards that tournament, but also a feeling of friendship and bonding. Knowing this matters because it helps you approach how to play. That's why it feels bad when your rogue runs away every fight while the rest of the party stands their ground. It's not against the rules, so to speak, but it is against the spirit of the game. So that's the spirit of the game. What about the spirit of the campaign? Well, this is a more Willow-Waresy spin on a phrase so you can easily remember it. Gygax actually refers to this as knowing the campaign in which you play. He advises this, quote, accept and assimilate all information about the campaign world and always strive to learn more. Knowledge is power, and more important, knowledge leads to success, unquote. The campaign is the world your DM has created for you, basically. Fantasy High, which takes place at a magical high school, versus, say, the more traditional fantasy adventure Critical Role Campaign 1, both share the same spirit of the game, but two different spirits of campaigns. How do these things apply to you and your character? Knowing the spirit of the game affects your table etiquette and tactical choices. Knowing the spirit of the campaign affects your character flavor, and you can spot a character who was developed with no thought towards the campaign from a mile away. Smurfette, in a grimdark campaign, is not the ideal candidate for long-term meaningful roleplay. Or hey, maybe she is. Prove me wrong, but I don't think you can. And hey, that's certainly funny for one-shots or joke characters, I guess, but sometimes it feels a little too much like this.
I know a couple of poor, defenseless museums, but then again, I also know a couple of hotels.
A real deep, meaningful character having anchors in the campaign itself gives you, your DM, and your party multiple avenues for meaningful roleplay. If only there was some concrete bullet point method you could go through for this to make sure you were on the right track. I guess you don't, and I guess you're going to be lost forever. Just kidding! And hey, we did it! Yes, our character is now perfect. We will accept no constructive criticism at this time. Now I know what you're thinking. Willow-Wares, I'm just a NASA science lawyer. I can't write all that incredibly complex information down. Well, hey, never fear, because I'm still here. Started the video with you, and now I'm closing it out with you. I've written all of these points down in a handy-dandy sheet that you can print out, fill out, post it on a telephone pole. For free, but not the telephone pole. I do not have telephone pole money. I'm not built like that. For my lovely patrons, as a thank you, I've written out these tips from a DM's perspective to help mesh your campaign to your players. And hey, if you're new, I've got a bunch of other videos about classes, bosses, character development, so check them out if you want. Thank you for coming to Willow-Wares Character Session.